Okay, so for section 3-5, parallel lines and triangles, this is an introduction to topic 4 when talking about triangles. That's why we saved 3-5 for the end of topic 3. But it's also important to acknowledge that the parallel lines play a part in this as well. So first of all, this is the most important thing we'll learn about triangles all year, and we use it all year, okay? The triangle angle sum theorem, okay? And the abbreviation for that is triangles equal 180, okay? So you can just write that to understand this better. Triangles equal 180. So the sum of all the angles of a triangle is 180. So if I have a triangle, okay, and this angle is 85, this angle is 60, and I'm wanting to find this angle, okay, then I can write an equation and say that 60 plus 85 plus x equals 180. So all I have to do is add these two together, okay? So I get 145 plus x equals 180. So add them together and then subtract from 180. So I can see here that x equals 35 degrees. So that's what the measure of the angle is. So that's very simple. Now you may be like, why do I have to write this equation out? Well, sometimes these could be a bit more complex. It could have equations in here instead. It could have x plus 3, 4x plus 15, and 5x. I don't know, something crazy like that. So I just made that up. But I could say this plus this plus this equals 180. And then I could solve that equation. I don't recommend doing that because I just made that one up. So that is very important. So I'll ask you guys, what do triangles equal? 180. So it's all angles of the triangle. Now, some people, this often happens, and I don't want you to make this mistake. We see this line down here, and you guys are like, oh, it's a straight line, so these two angles equal 180. That's not how that works. It's a straight line. These two angles equal 180. They're a linear pair because they're adjacent to each other on a straight line. These are very far apart from one another. They do not have vertex at the same location. So these two angles don't equal 180. All three angles of a triangle equal 180. So don't make that mistake. Okay, an exterior angle is an angle formed on the outside side and an extension of an adjacent side. So one thing I do want to note, angle 1 here is an exterior angle. But if I was to have this, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Angle 1 is an interior angle right here. And angle 3 and 4 are exterior angles. 2 is not. 2 is not an exterior angle in this term, okay? What it is vertical to angle 1, okay? Because the definition of an exterior angle is that it formed by a side and an extension of one of the sides. So we can see that angle 2 would just be an extension of two sides, not a side and an angle. So that's a very important thing to note. Next up, we have remote interior angles. So in this picture, I'm going to add them to this picture as well. Remote interior angles are the angles that are not close to the exterior angle. So in this case, okay, we see angle 1 right here. The one adjacent to it is angle 4. Those are a linear pair. Those equal 180 because it's on a straight line right next to each other. Those two equal 180. Well, 2 and 3 are the remote interior angles, which is very important to acknowledge. And so we can make a conclusion about this, which is called the triangle exterior angles theorem. So the conclusion that we can make about this is the triangle exterior angle theorem. The measure of each exterior angle of a triangle equals the sum of its remote interior angles. Okay, so right here we can say angle 1 equals angle 2 plus angle 3. Now I'm going to show you right now why this works, okay? So I'm going to draw out the same picture. And we know that angle 1 and angle 4, those are a supplementary pair, or a linear pair. They're supplementary. They equal 180, right? It's on a straight line right here. the angles are adjacent to each other, so we know that they are a linear pair. Okay, and to make this simple, make this more conceptual, I'm going to actually give these measures. Okay, 120 degrees, I'm just making this up, and 60 degrees. Okay, we would know that this angle plus this angle equals 180. So now the conclusion that I want to make for you is that this angle 1 is the sum of these two angles, and I'm going to prove it to you. Okay, so I'm going to say that this angle is 70 and this angle is 50 degrees. Okay, so I just made up those numbers, but they do work, and that's important to note. Okay, so I'm going to rewrite the 50 degrees. Now we know that triangles equal 180. So if I add up, so this is these three equal 180 because it's a triangle. And we know 60 plus 50 plus 70, that would give us 180. So that's a very important thing to note. Now, let's say I didn't know what angle 4 was. Well, I could add up these two and subtract them from 180 and realize that angle 4 was 60. Well, if I didn't know what angle 1 was, I could then subtract 60 from 180 and get 120 again. Well, I could have just gotten 120 by adding angle 2 and angle 3. So it's because the triangle equals 180 and straight lines, supplementary angles equal 180. Those two things working together allows us to make this conclusion. Well, if I just add up the two angles that are inside the triangle that are far away from my exterior angle, not the one right next to it, then I can say that that equals that. And we can see that 70 plus 50 equals 120. And even though I've made these numbers up on the spot, they work, okay? And as long as we have a triangle that equals 180 and a straight line here that equals 180, it will work for you too. That's true about all triangles. So that's a very important thing to know. I put on here, write your reasons for why you're solving a problem a certain way, okay? Having your reasons, understanding your justifications for why you're doing something is very important. So let's look at example problems. So right here up first, we have a little bit of a complicated one. So I put an easy one on my explanation, but I put a little more complicated one on here. So right here, we can see that we have a triangle. And so what do triangles equal? Well, they equal 180. So because of that, I can say if I add this angle plus x, it should equal 180. So I add them together, subtract it from 180. I now know what x is. It is 78. Okay. Now that's very important because I could find y. Now, if we ignore this triangle altogether, remember I told you guys to be doing better about covering up parts that you're not using. If I ignore this triangle, but I look at y right here, y is an exterior angle. So I could use the exterior angle thing, which is different than what they did here. And I could say, well, if I just add this remote interior and this remote interior, I could get angle y. Now, if you don't want to do that, we could also use that x and y are on a straight line. And if I draw this out better, so if this is 78 and this equals 180, this plus this equals 180. So we could figure out what y is. That should put in the y right there. So that's very important. And then if we know what y is, we can use that triangles equal 180 to find angle z. There's a lot of different ways to go about this. We also could have used that this big triangle equals 180, and this is angle B plus this angle equals 180 to find angle z. There's a lot of different ways to go about this. What's important is that you write your reasons based on whichever way you used, whether you used triangles equal 180, exterior angles theorem, straight lines equal 180, vertical angles, or part plus part equals whole. Write down what you used. Next up, exterior angles theorem. We get this. If this is an exterior angle, this is a shortcut, right? And if you don't know how to use the shortcut, don't use the shortcut. So I could add up these two remote interior angles and get angle 1. It's a nice shortcut. But if you don't remember how to use it, it's not going to be very effective. Or right here, this is a remote interior. So I know, based off the triangle exterior angles theorem, I can say angle 2 plus 59, I know is going to equal 124. So then I could subtract to get what angle 2 equals. So that's very important that we can do that out there. Next up, it's the same type of thing, just in a different context, okay? So it's wanting what this angle is. Well, this is an exterior angle, and these are the two remote interior angles. So if you want to look that over, it's great stuff, and that's what triangles in 3-5, parallel lines and triangles, is all about.